Hey there. Do you need a ride?
You came just in the nick of time. Thanks so much. My car just broke down.
Yeah, I saw it back there when I was hunting around.
Odd way to put it, but...
Hold on. Let me move this plastic sheeting and these two buck knives off the seat for you. I don't usually have any guests for long.
Again, very strange way of putting it. I just really appreciate you taking me back into town. You know, it's just a little drive, so thanks. Thanks very much.
What town you heading to?
That's kind of personal question there.
I mean, you're in my car.
Yeah. In second thought, I think I could use the fresh air. I think I'm just going to walk. So if you could just...
Now, it's pretty dark out here. And if you're not careful, you might run into some weirdo like me. Yeah. You can't argue with that advice. That's for sure.
Oh.
This podcast is about why horror scares us. What deep, dark, secret, scary cinema shines a light on. The discussions are frank and involve conversations about abuse, trauma, and mental health. There are also spoilers, so keep that in mind too. Now, sharpen your machetes and straight razors, because this is Cutting Deep into Horror.
Welcome back to Cutting Deep into Horror. I am, of course, your host, Henrique Couto, here with my co-host, Rachael Redolfi. Rachael, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm glad that you're adapting quickly to the BS of answering how you're doing as if we're just now seeing each other. Which really, that's such an old... show business trope. The only time it would be accurate would be like if somebody was calling into a radio show or, a show where you're Skyping in. But generally, there's a greeting before you're on the air.
A considerable amount of a greeting for us, considering we live together.
In theory, yeah.
In theory.
So, and we just shared a big bucket of chicken and watched some TV to get ready for the show.
Chicken and mashed taters.
Mashed potatoes. So, but tonight on the show, we're talking about a film that is very near and dear to my heart and a film that is often overlooked. It was actually not readily available to watch until maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was basically, you couldn't find it anywhere. Now it's streaming. I believe it's on Tubi. It's on a bunch of services. It's called Confessions of a Serial Killer. It was shot in 1985, although it actually was released, I believe, in the early 90s. Hence why, if you look up the original poster, he's wearing, it's a perfect example of a shameless Roger Corman poster. So Roger Corman, for those who don't know, was the grand poobah of the B movie. I mean, he invented so many elements of exploitation film. And again, for those who don't know, aren't familiar with the term exploitation film, it's basically referring to types of films where there is something salacious to exploit to get the audience to come and watch.
Right.
Whether that is horror, violence, blood, gore, sex, whatever it is, that's being exploited in the movie. Because some people, when they hear exploitation film, they think a little bit too literally. So they think the movie is literally exploiting people or something. And that's a whole other
But
can of worms.
that's how you got stuff like Ozploitation.
Yeah. Those were the subsets. Ozploitation, Blaxploitation, which were all the black movies like Dolomite and Shaft and things like that, which were those were movies that were made for black audiences, which were substantially underserved in the late 60s and 70s for the most part. I mean, there were a few movies that came out in mainstream that were towards black audience. I mean, Shaft was actually a pretty big movie, but Dolomite's a good example. Black Godfather is one of my favorite blaxploitation movies. And then you get into subsets like Canucksploitation, which is Canadian-made exploitation movies. There's all kinds. But Roger Corman, he really epitomized that spirit because he would find a niche in the marketplace. And especially later in his life when he stopped directing and pretty much just produced, he would find out that he would finance a movie about kickboxing. And if it made money, he would literally make 8 kickboxing movies the next year.
Yeah.
And they would all be dirt cheap. He didn't believe in raising the budgets for the sake of it. So the movies would get cheap. And his rule was the market will eventually dry out. It could dry out in 2 years. It could dry out in 20 years, but it'll eventually dry up. So he would just follow the trend. But if there was still money to be made, the movies would just get progressively cheaper until you ended up with some really weird, cheap movies in many of the genres. I mean, he made almost a decade's worth of strip club thriller movies, which they got progressively very cheap. To the point where there was one I watched, I wish I could remember the name of it. It was one of the last in that series, but it literally had, it was only in the strip club for like one act because they couldn't afford the location. Like it's a strip club movie and they had to cut the strip club out.
So that's a major portion of that, like major element of the movie is just like missing from 2/3 of the movie.
Well, I mean, I suppose you could say the major element were the strippers, not the strip club itself.
Okay, that's fair.
And the
that's
strippers
fair.
were without a doubt still there.
Oh,
So,
okay.
But that was a Roger Corman thing. But Confessions of a Serial Killer was not produced by Roger Corman, but it was one of the few, although he did this from time to time, it was one of the few films he bought the distribution rights to and distributed himself. And it was shot in 1985. And I don't know exactly when Corman picked it up, but I'm pretty sure he put it out in the 90s. But it's also an example. This film is a famous example of spontaneous, or not spontaneous. It's a parallel creation.
Okay.
You know the concept?
Yeah.
So the idea that two movies are being made at almost the exact same time about the exact same subject matter without having any relation to each other.
Okay. Yeah.
And the movie that this film gets compared to the most is a movie that is not a lost film or underappreciated movie. It's a Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Okay, yeah.
Which that one is very well known, very well loved, and that came out in 86, so they were basically filming them at the exact same time.
Okay. That's cool.
One in Chicago and one in Texas. And they're both based on real-life serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, who was called the Confessions serial killer because he confessed to killing like 200 people, and very likely well over half of them were bunk. I mean, he confessed to killing people that they found still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, he figured out that if he confessed to crimes, his treatment was better because especially the Texas Rangers loved to close cold cases. They were able to solve all these crimes that were never solved. But in reality, some people think he only killed like 6 or 7 people. It's very hotly debated. I don't remember exactly how many people he was found guilty of killing.
Okay.
But he's an interesting character, interesting human being was. But yeah, at one point before people started looking at him from a skeptical standpoint, they thought he was the most prolific serial killer to ever live because he said he just stayed on the highway.
Yeah.
And would just drive along killing people and leaving their bodies and just keep driving because back then law enforcement agencies didn't communicate very often to each other. There was no database on the internet. There was no internet. I mean, Henry Lee Lucas died in 2001. I believe he was arrested in the late 70s or early 80s. Yeah. So according to Wikipedia, which is never wrong, he only had 3 confirmed victims.
Wow.
But he confessed to over 250. And as time went on, it became more apparent he was lying because he started to tailor his confessions to what was kind of going on. At one point, he claimed that he was conscripted by a satanic cult. And this was right when the satanic panic started, where people thought that all kinds of crazy things were happening because of satanic cults. So at one point, he said he basically worked for like the satanic cult Illuminati and was killing people for them. But I mean, considering none of those things ever got proven, I mean, not just with him, but I mean, the entire satanic panic was basically a dud.
Yeah.
It was a combination. It was a combination of hype. It was a combination of implanted memories in people, because they would do things like put you into like hypnosis to try to pull up repressed memories, and whether purposeful or not, which is worthy of debate, they would implant memories into you because of the way they would ask questions.
Yeah.
The same thing's been claimed with UFO experts and hypnosis used for UFOs. They'll say, and what size was the ship? Well, now you've established there's a ship.
Yeah.
Then they would ask questions like, what was the ship like? Was the ship, did the ship have a lot of lights on it like the ships do on Earth? Now you've established this isn't a ship on Earth.
Yeah, that it's something else.
You're building a case. And I think with the UFO people, it's a lot more intentional. Mm-hmm. But with the satanic panic thing, I think that people were just scared and a bit small-minded. I mean, we were at the beginning in the 80s of the information age.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all of the murdering and crazy shit that's happening all over America and the world is now like in everybody's nightly news. It's in every newspaper people are reading. The world became a lot smaller, which meant it became a lot scarier. So people wanted explanations, because from their perspective, everything had gotten way more dangerous. Meanwhile, in reality, violent crime in America was declining in the 80s because the 60s and 70s were some of the most violent and deadly times in American history outside of the Civil War.
Yeah.
And people forget that because if they lived through it, they survived it. And people tend to do that, like
survivor bias.
Yeah, something like that. Because I grew up in the 90s, and the Soviet Union fell when I was like, I grew up born in 86. So I was like 5 when the Soviet Union fell. So I can't pretend I lived through Cold War era. I don't remember any of it. But it's funny how you talk to, older people, and they remember the Cold War a lot less fun than the people who maybe were like 14, 15 in 1988. They're kind of like, it was all Reagan and popped collars and watching Wall Street. And it's like, you didn't really believe there was a threat of global nuclear war. Yeah. So anyway, that was a very long digression. But I've thought about this stuff a lot. I've always been interested in serial killers. I'm not one of those people, but I do find them interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of person to like collect things or study them profusely. But I was always fascinated, especially by Henry Lee Lucas, because, again, if you read stuff from before people started to realize he was full of crap, he comes off so scary because it seemed like he was a remorseless killer of hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. That's terrifying.
It is. It is.
And Confessions of a Serial Killer took a very different approach to Henry than Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which if we had had time, I would have showed that to you, because I think you'd really love Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. And we probably end up doing an episode on that because that's a scary movie too. But when we get back, I'll talk a little bit about the differences between the two films and why I find Confessions in many ways to be a scarier film right after this. So Confessions of a Serial Killer was made in 1985, like we said, and it was directed by a guy named, he went by the name Mark Blair. Or no, his name is Mark Blair, I believe. This gets confusing.
Okay.
I believe he directed the film under the name John Dwyer, but his real name was Mark Blair. But in the modern versions of Confessions you watch, it says Mark Blair because I believe I'm almost certain he put his real name on it from now on. At the time in Texas, it was in Austin, and this was 85, so Austin was still like a very small city.
Okay.
It did have some film people. I mean, Texas Chainsaw had its post-production done in Austin. And the lead in this film, Robert A. Burns, was the art director on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And we talked about him quite a bit on our episode.
Oh, hell yeah.
I talked about Robert Burns. I have a lot to say about Robert Burns as well. A lot of positive things and some personal things about him. But so they made this film, and I believe Mark Blair, gosh, I wish I could remember if that was his real name or not. It doesn't matter. But I believe Mark Blair was a industrial filmmaker. You're not familiar with that term, are you?
No, I'm fascinated. Go on.
It's not exciting at all.
Oh.
It means film for industry. So back in the day when filmmaking was very challenging and you needed to know what you were doing, you probably needed a degree to handle celluloid film and expose it and shoot it. People would make boku bucks filming literally anything that industry needed. So we're talking training videos. We're talking training videos, education videos, commercials, of course, advertisements, but internal stuff too.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking, though. So that is really interesting.
Well, and some industrial films were as boring as hello, I'm Paul, and I own the blah blah blah. I own the Ron's Rec Center and whatever. I don't know why I chose a rec center, but then you had ones like, remember that ridiculous short film we saw with Riff Tracks, Shake Hands with Danger?
Yeah.
That was an industrial film, though.
Okay,
because while it was a very silly, I highly recommend people look this up on YouTube. It was a film about common construction site and excavation site injuries that could happen to make you be careful. Mm-hmm. Like it would, they would show like a guy not putting on his hat for 1 second and then either actually getting horribly hurt or really close.
Yeah, like the
really
hammer whizzes right past his head.
Yeah, and then
shake hands with danger.
Yeah, and then they'd play the twangy guitar. Yeah, so he learned what happens when you shake hands with danger. And the movie is hilarious because it's really just a low budget short film. But the reason that film is so quirky is because those were filmmakers making those films.
Okay.
So they were trying to tell a story and trying to make it entertaining and it was competent because they knew how to do it. Because it wasn't like now where, if you have an internal video for your company, you could just point an iPhone and just do it real quick and everybody will be able to hear it and see it. It's fine. Mm-hmm. But back then, if you wanted in the 90s, if you needed to film a deposition for a court, you had to hire a videographer to sit there and film 3 hours of a guy answering questions. Because you had to have the camera, you had to have the recording box, you had to have a microphone, and you had to have lights. So my buddy Mike used to film. He filmed weddings and depositions, and he said depositions were the best because they were boring as sin, but you did nothing but change tapes for 3 hours, and you made $220 an hour. So he loved them, even though they were painfully boring. But so Mark Blair was an industrial filmmaker in Austin, Texas. So he was doing educational videos and training videos for all kinds of companies. So he was a little nervous about putting his name on a movie so spicy. Because this movie
it tackles a lot.
It does. And they don't shy away. It's one of the reasons I find the movie so scary.
Yeah.
So when you compare Confessions of a Serial Killer and Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, one of the things I find most amusing about them is Henry is considered a very gritty, violent movie, and it is, but it's much more fictionalized than Confessions, based on what they knew at the time. Their version of Henry is just in Chicago killing hookers and stuff, which is terrifying, and he's played by Michael Rooker. It was his first major role, and now he's been in the Avengers and stuff, and Walking Dead, but he's very scary as that character, but he's really nothing like Henry Lee Lucas. Henry Lee Lucas was also known as the Drifter Killer because he drifted from place to place and never really had a place of his own. They also glossed entirely over him and his partner in crime, whose name was Otis Toole, although because it was 2 T's, Otis instead of Otis. But they named him Otis in the movie. They completely glossed over them having a sexual relationship with each other. They had Becky in it, which was, I forget her name in Confessions off the top of my head, but Becky was the name of the, they called her Molly.
Yeah, yeah.
But so my point is that Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer changed nearly every detail and used all the real names. And Confessions kept most of the most shocking and disturbing details and changed all the names. So the Henry Lee Lucas in this is Daniel Ray Hawkins. The oddest tool is Moon Luton, which is a hell of a name. And the Becky tool was Molly Luton instead. They also, like in Henry, the Becky character that Henry marries in real life, she's like 20 something and kind of like trying to figure her life out. In Confessions, she's like 15 years old, 16 years old, doesn't look it, but she's supposed to be. In real life, she was like 12. So Confessions really split the difference, on trying to keep it upsetting. And that's why I always found Confessions of a Serial Killer so fascinating. And I apologize that right now this feels like almost a monologue. I've loved this movie as far as creepy, messed up horror movies go. I've loved it and championed it for a very, very long time. And I cannot tell you how happy I was when Mark Blair and the folks at Cedarwood Entertainment who made the movie finally got their rights back. I think they were on a 30-year deal with Corman's company.
Oh.
They put it out themselves and they did a Blu-ray, which I bought, and it was amazing because the movie had a DVD release in the United Kingdom, which was cut to hell for content. So, and even the VHS I saw was cut. Like the scene we'll talk about later where they shoot two kids, that was just not in the VHS I saw when I was a kid. So it's a fascinating movie. It explores, I would say, more. What we're going to be talking about is more the like myth of Henry Lucas and not the reality, because the reality is obviously sadder, sicker, and less fascinating in some ways. Like it's less grandiose because he didn't kill hundreds of people. By any stretch. And in this version, Henry is or Daniel Ray Hawkins is basically exactly what Henry Lee Lucas said he was. And you got to remember, they were making this movie before he was fully sentenced, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, that was ongoing in Texas. In fact, one of my favorite things, I wish I could see it. I have a poster, which I'll get into in a minute, but the quote on the poster isn't even from a movie critic. It's a guy who wrote a book about Henry Lee Lucas saying a thing about Henry Lee Lucas on the cover. And Roger Corman got a hold of the movie, which kind of didn't do anything for a while. He snapped a picture of a guy with a Hannibal Lecter mask on because Silence of the Lambs had just came out and put it on home video, where a young me at 14 years old rented it at my local Hollywood Video. And I found the movie to be truly scary.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was disturbing and scary. And the best part, though, is not even 2 years later, I would meet Robert A. Burns, the man who played Daniel Ray Hawkins and who is famous for everything but this movie. And that interaction kind of in some ways like changed my life. And we'll talk all about that right after this. So I know. I've got an obscene amount to say about this movie, and it hits a big nostalgia button for me. So a couple years later, I'd already been doing this convention called Cinema Wasteland in Cleveland, Ohio. And I hear Robert A. Burns is going to be a guest. And the reason he's famous in horror circles is he was the production designer on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Reanimator, The Hills Have Eyes, several other films. He even took a shot directing a movie, a feature at one point. He did all kinds of stuff. And he had an incredible reputation for being a great dude. He was the guy who, demanded that they treat the chickens with care on Texas Chainsaw Massacre because he didn't want them to die.
Yeah.
Because they had chickens in these bird cages. And he was like, you can't just leave them here and you can't just knock them around all the time. Like, I gotta let them out and let them walk around and stuff. It's like, who cares if they're chickens? We still got to take care of them. He was a very good dude. And I was amped to meet him. I mean, that's all there is to it. But I wanted to meet him because of Confessions of a Serial Killer, a movie that I couldn't even get a copy of because it never came out on DVD in America. It was on VHS, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And years later, I did hunt down a copy online, a copy of the DVD from the United Kingdom, and I got to listen to the audio commentary with Robert Burns on it, which was really informative.
That's so cool.
So I walk up to his table. He's sitting there. And the thing that I have to say is the character that he portrays, when he portrayed Daniel Ray Hawkins, he didn't do anything. I mean, he just like made his hair messy. He didn't change the way he looked at all. So when I walked up to him, he just looked like the guy from the movie immediately, just older. And I'm not going to lie, it like creeped me out because that movie's so creepy.
Yeah.
But I walked up to him and I told him flat out, I was like, I am a huge fan of Confessions of a Serial Killer. I just think that movie is so scary. And he just lit up. He was so excited. And here's something I didn't know until a while later. That was the first horror movie convention he'd ever been to.
No way.
He had been in show business in and out. And sometimes he would just go down to Texas and just do other stuff. And he never got into that like convention circuit. He was always just kind of blue collar. So he had a blast at that show anyway. But we were talking and he tells me, hey, I've got something that's probably going to be like, you're going to love. So he opens up a little briefcase and inside it, he had about 20 or 30 folded posters of Confessions of a Serial Killer, the home video poster, which by the way, I've never been able to find anywhere. He said he found them in his basement before the show and brought them in case anybody would want them. So I had to have it. He signed it to me, want a ride, which is terrifying. And he told me about how he got the role. They were trying to find somebody and they were having a horrible time finding somebody to play the character, not only who was intense enough or whatever, but also was comfortable with the fact that it was a very grisly movie. And he said, like, I'd like to try because he'd been like dabbled in acting on and off for a really long time. And they were like, we don't know. We'll see. We'll see ya. And he said he went into it and he didn't know at the time, but everybody auditioned the opposite of the way he did. Everybody auditioned like a crazy person, and he came in and just like sat down and just talked because he'd watched videos of serial killers. And he was like, they're so normal. It's scary. And they were like, we want you to do it. And the funny thing is, and this is one of the reasons I think it works better than Henry in a horror way. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Michael Rooker is scary, but he's also a badass because Michael Rooker is he's an awesome dude. He's got a huge personality. He's got it, you know?
Yeah.
Robert A. Burns is a nebbish dork.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's never cool. He's just horrible. And I mean, that's all that character is. He's just monstrous.
Yeah.
But he's just an average guy. He's got thick Coke bottle glasses and he talks real kind of plain, because the real Henry Lee Lucas was not a handsome man. And he had an eye that was all messed up. Like it curled down.
Oh, I
like
didn't
his
know
eyelid
that.
was like scarred or deformed in some way. So he was an odd looking guy. He wasn't like a Ted Bundy who was like very handsome.
Mm-hmm.
So people wanted to, be around him. So he got the role and, that was pretty much, how it all happened. And he also worked in the production design department on the movie because he knew everybody that was working on it pretty much because he knew everybody in Austin. It was a small town and it was so cool. So he talked with me for like 40 minutes. There was no line at his table for a while. So we just talked and talked and talked. And then 6 months later, there was another Cinema Wasteland and I saw him running around the show with a little camcorder. And I was like, oh crap. I didn't even realize he was going to be here. And I talked to Ken who owns Wasteland. He was like, neither did I. He just came to attend because he had such a blast. He just wanted to go again.
Oh, that's adorable.
And he made like a little documentary with his own little home camcorder of the whole thing.
That is so great.
And I have that poster hanging proudly. It's one of my only posters that will always be hanging.
Yeah.
Because this is where it gets a little sad. Unfortunately, about 5 months after the last time I saw Robert, he took his own life. He had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Mm-hmm. And he chose to end his life. And I while I don't love that at all, I will never sit here and act like I know what it's like to have somebody tell you are going to die slowly and painfully. And he actually left a notice on his website.
Wow.
That actually it's been a really long time since I read it, but it basically just said like, I love movies and I love stories, but I've always believed that if you're in a theater and you're watching a film and you know for a fact that the story's not going to be good anymore, it's okay to get up and leave.
Wow.
And yeah, so and that hit me hard. I mean, I was not even 18 yet.
Yeah.
And that's what also made that poster really special is there are maybe 19 other people from that one show, maybe, that have that poster. And the fact that we got to talk about it, and we talked a bunch at that show when he was wandering around because he remembered me.
Yeah.
And my favorite part of that show, by the way, was that at one point we were all walking outside. It was April in Cleveland, and we were walking outside to do something. And Ken, the owner of the show, pelts Robert in the back with a snowball because it had snowed like crazy. He pelted him in the back with a snowball, which Robert had barely seen snow his whole life. And he turned around and looked at Ken, and Ken went, "Welcome to spring in Ohio." So, no, but Robert Burns left a real impression on me, and I think he did an incredible job in the movie. And that's why I had to talk so long about just those personal elements.
Yeah.
It has made the movie special to me. And when I heard there was going to be a Blu-ray, which by the way, they said there was going to be one and there wasn't anything for 4 or 5 years. I had a buddy look into, who owned the rights and stuff. Every now and then I get a wild hair to try and do something like that. I wish I had the money. Sometimes I'm like, I would have a boutique label, for weird crap like that, but I'll just leave that to my buddy Ryan. He can have the ulcers. But
we love you, Ryan.
We do love Ryan, and if he had the time, he might listen to this show, but he doesn't, so he won't. But yeah. So this movie has a special place in my heart, considering it is a nasty movie about serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's dark and it's harsh and it's unflinching, and I think that's what really stuck with me because the movie is very matter of fact. But I don't think that it's plain or uninspired, which is a hard line to cross where you're still telling a story with the camera movement and the positioning, the mise en scene, if you want to be fancy. I'm mad that that's the first word I could think of instead of the normal English word. Mise en scene is just how you use the angle and the placement of everything in the frame.
Oh, gotcha.
To tell a story. But the fact that they would just put the camera on them doing a heinous thing and just show it.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
I found that very disturbing because on the other end, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer was famous for being shot on 16 millimeter film and looking gritty, almost documentary like. And Confessions was shot very well on 35 millimeter film. So anyway, with all of that out of the way, sorry, I have a lot to say on that. We're going to properly dive into the film. But I feel like we've said a good amount about it already.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll dive into it full-throated right after this. So we're back talking about 1985's Confessions of a Serial Killer. And Rach, you have been very respectfully quiet. So why don't you jump in? Because this was your first time seeing the film.
It was. So you've told me this is one of your favorite films, and you know that it's got
favorite horror movies. It's not like I'm like, yeah, whenever I'm having a rough day, it's just that or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You know, it
really lifts my spirit.
Yeah, it's just one or the other. You know, or Fievel Goes West. Or Confessions of a Serial Killer or Sallow. It's not quite that, but yeah, it's one of my favorite horror movies.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
And you've told me before the story about Robert and meeting him, so I've known for a while what an important horror film it is to you, but I've never actually seen it. And aside from knowing that it's based on the story of Henry Lee Lucas, I really didn't know much about it. So my first impression was how because the movie does not shy away from anything. You mentioned that. It really does not shy away from anything. But the thing that it is it's very purposeful about gore.
Yeah.
It's not like a slasher film like Friday the 13th or something where there's the later Friday the 13th, because the initial Friday the 13th, there's some
Tom Savini did the effects on that one. I mean, it splatters around a bit.
It's splatter, but it's not quite like the other ones.
And unlike a traditional slasher movie, I mean, the killer is the main character of the film.
So, it's very calculated with the gore that it shows you. It's almost like it's kind of testing the limits to see where you personally, as an audience member, draw the line. And so it just keeps getting more and more uncomfortable. But what's really interesting is the pacing of the film. It's almost like it sets it up so that the first half of the film is training you to understand that Henry is a killer.
Mm-hmm. Well, or Daniel.
That Daniel is a killer. And there's no way he will never not be a killer. And then the last half of the film is saying, okay, now let's put him in a situation where he's not just traveling and killing. Let's introduce almost like a home invasion aspect to it.
Well, and they didn't call it Confessions of a Serial Killer because that became a tropey thing, Confessions of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he is in police custody when the movie starts, basically. Yeah. He's in police custody and he's telling them these crimes he's committed. And he's got this interesting mentality where it's like he understands that he should have remorse. And he's trying to. He doesn't feel remorse, but he covets it because he even says a few times, even though there's no excitement in his voice, right? He's like, whatever helps bring some kind of closure to those to those families. I'm happy to do that. Mm-hmm. But that's he's just there's just not a lot behind behind his eyes.
Yeah.
And I found that really fascinating too. He kind of had this attitude, he was kind of since, you caught me, so thank God I'll stop doing it. But, I just did it all the time. That's one of the scariest lines that he says, I don't know, just do it all the time, just.
Yeah. At one point he says, that killing for him comes as easy as breathing for other people.
Yeah. Just doing it all the time, everywhere. It's chilling. Well, we'll get to it, but the most chilling thing in the whole movie is the last line.
Mm-hmm.
That messes me up so bad, which is funny. I'm not going to compare it the whole time, but because people talk about how chilling the last shot of Henry is, and it is, but I find this one's ending way more chilling.
Yeah.
So, because it has so much to say about the idea of a sociopath and a psychopathic killer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And and that's kind of why, when I was putting together the list of movies I wanted to talk about this year, for some reason, I was like, well, I feel like just knowing what I do about Pearl, I feel like it would just be a fun little tete-a-tete to have Confessions of a Serial Killer afterward. But now that I've watched it, the more I'm like, no, they pair very nicely together because they're both explorations of sociopathy. Mm-hmm. It's just, whereas Pearl is a level of unhinged where it's this controlled chaos. Henry, again, is just cultivated and calculating, and just, they're both killers regardless. It's just, they both have very different, I wouldn't say different MOs, but just different ways of carrying it out.
Well, Pearl is more delusional.
Yeah.
Which is actually, in a way, less scary. Because at least Pearl believes all these crazy things are happening, as to where he's just yeah, she was just on the side of the road, needed help, so I murdered her.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? I don't know. I needed to.
Didn't like the way she looked.
Oh, he didn't even. I mean, he only had one. I think there was only one person he said he didn't like that he had a problem with the way she acted.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody else, he was seemed like a nice person.
So anyway, they got to die.
It's so weird, though. I mean, it really is. It's really fascinating. And they did do a really good job, which was ahead of their time, of depicting how the cops were so much nicer to him because he was confessing to crimes and he was helping them solve crimes, because they start bringing him hamburgers and milkshakes and French fries, and they let him go on a ride in the car as long as he can help them find, a body that he said he buried. Which I thought that stuff is, but that's so ahead of its time too, because I feel like it wasn't until the 90s that it really got revealed how much of the Henry Lee Lucas legend was just him hanging out with cops and knowing that if he gave them stuff, they would give him stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but that's in there. It's subtle too. It's not in your face. I mean,
but it's definitely there.
Oh yeah.
I would call it an undercurrent of the film.
Yeah. And there's a weirdness where the sheriff or whoever, the Texas Ranger that's interviewing him, was it Sheriff Will Gaines? It was a sheriff. There's a few moments where they are almost having a rapport.
Yeah.
Because he's thankful that they're possibly solving crimes. Cause he like hands him a book of missing persons and he goes through it. He's like, do you recognize any of these? He's like, nope. I remember him,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he's like, really? And he's like popping the thing. But so they'll start talking about, then all of a sudden he'll just say, you know, yeah, slit her throat and left her behind a whatever. We cut him into little pieces and threw the parts out of the car. And his face, how he's like, I almost forget that this is a monster, that this is beyond the scope of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the sheriff is not a young man. He looks like he's gotta be, I mean, you know, he's probably a rough 60,
Mm-hmm.
you know, by today's standards, he'd be like 70, but you know, back then that was 60. And you know, he's shocked by some of the things this guy's saying.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just say like, you know, oh, I killed somebody, you know, like this. Plainly, he's the same way about admitting to his homosexual relations with Moon Luton, his occasional partner in murder. He just says like, we'd have sexual relations with each other and blah, 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 which was insanely taboo in Texas at that time. And he just says it because he's like that. I thought that was a really, especially after this, you know, most recent watch, I thought that was such a brilliant move to show that he really has no concept of taboo at all. Because it's not just murder. He's talking about being a homosexual, you know, and like it's nothing. Because to him, nothing is nothing, you know? So anyway.
Nothing is nothing.
Nothing is nothing. But we'll take a quick break and then we'll dive into some more of the fearfulness right after this.
So when we open on the film, it is a dark highway, Texas, late at night, and guys driving around, flipping through the radio, and he sees a lady on the side of the road, goes to pick her up, and it really set the tone of the movie, because a lot of it does take place, you know, on the highways.
Oh, yeah. And
one of the things that it got me to thinking about was because you know we've talked about Texas Chainsaw is you know at that time and it still does, a lot of crimes happen on highways.
Yeah,
like,
well, back then hitchhiking was, I mean, we've talked about this when we did the Texas Chainsaw episode. Hitchhiking is mostly basically illegal in the entire country.
Yeah,
but back then it wasn't.
Yeah.
And hitchhiking wasn't even considered a thing that you necessarily did if you were homeless or a drifter. Sometimes people just hitchhiked because that was the only way they could afford to travel.
Yeah. Yeah. So it got me to thinking about that. But I've got a funny story about night driving, but I know that you travel a lot.
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any particularly funny or scary stories about night driving?
I mean, yeah, they're hard to get across sometimes because there was a period in my life where I was driving all over all the time, and driving overnight was my favorite because, you know, no traffic or whatever, as long as you could stay awake.
Yeah.
And I don't know, one of the scariest was probably I was at a rest stop off of 78 in Pennsylvania, and I was 19 years old, maybe. No, I think I was 18. I think I was like a little ways from 19 years old, and it's 2:30 in the morning and I'm gassing up my Volkswagen, and a guy just walks up to me and asks me for a ride. And I'll be honest, I don't remember much. I remember he looked at least a little rough around the edges, but I don't really remember a lot of details. It was a long time ago, but it startled me because I'm just alone minding my own business. You know, it's cold and I'm just pumping my gas, and he just asks if I could give him a ride, like where I'm heading. And I was scared shitless because I'm all alone. I don't see any other people anywhere around me. And the only thing that made it easy to get out of was I was in the process of moving to New Jersey, and there was no room in my car. And you could see, if you looked in the car, that there was luggage on the passenger seat. Like every inch of that Volkswagen Beetle was covered in the things I could take with me. And the guy, I said, sorry, I don't have any room. And he just kind of went, all right, well, have a good night. And he like walked off. And I think my age and the time and everything. And like, I think that was probably only the second or third time I'd ever driven overnight at all.
Ooh.
Now that I think about it, I think that's what made it the scariest.
Yeah. No, you didn't have a ton of other experiences.
No. And I was, you got to remember, like I'm moving 650 miles from home.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd only been driving at that point for 6 or 7 months. And my mother scared the hell out of me because she was telling me, like, you have to be careful. You know, there are people out there that, you know, are dangerous and stuff. So I'm thinking that. And I had traveled a lot, but not by myself like this. I had always, because I didn't get my license until I was 18. So, you know, when I would go to conventions, I'd be riding in a car full of people. And I realized that I was always with people. Makes you feel a lot more secure.
Yeah, you do.
So that was probably like the most scared I'd ever been, other than like, I have like lots of silly stories about like driving way too tired and stuff.
Yeah.
But those were scary because like you'd kind of start to hallucinate, but then you'd be even more scared because you'd realize that like you could crash your car. So, yeah.
And that's pretty scary in the grand scheme of things.
I would say in any scheme. But what about you?
Well, now mine isn't nearly as exciting.
Oh man, I thought mine was lame. Okay.
No, I mean, no, I was just thinking about like all the times I've been driving late at night for DoorDash.
Oh yeah.
And I've never had anyone like, you know, ask me for a ride or anything, but there's been times like, almost hit a deer.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And there was one time where I was like on 48, where it is like partially highway, so like past Lebanon, and it was probably around like midnight, and people drive like fucking maniacs down there past Lebanon, and I was going, and a raccoon just ran in front of me, but it was one of those big old like giant ass raccoons, and someone was like right beside me, so I couldn't swerve to miss it, so I had to sadly hit the raccoon.
Horrible person.
Yeah, that was pretty scary because there was that split moment of like, shit, what do I do? And then my car, like, it ripped up the underside of my car real bad and sounded really bad driving home.
I mean, I hit a deer and like cut it in half with a Volkswagen Beetle, so I get it. It didn't rip out the cover though. It just ripped out the entire cooling system of my car.
Oh, good.
That was a $3,400 repair bill.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Anyway, and that was at like 2:30 in the morning outside of Kentucky. I was just 2.5 hours from home.
Damn.
Maybe a little closer, but anyway.
Damn.
But no, that was scary, but not for not for lots of reasons. But there is an eerie calm about driving really late at night, especially on the highway, because there's so little to do other than just sit there.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, there's no turning the wheel, there's no signaling, there's no looking at the map or looking at your app really, because it's like you're on I-75 for 410 miles.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah,
so it's just you and whatever you're listening to. And I actually really loved some of the shots they did of him when he was in his car going through the highway, where they didn't light some of it might have been budget reasons, but they didn't light anything but the interior of his car. So he almost looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
He's just kind of floating on the highway as they're like passing by the car. It's a really cool visual.
Yeah.
And I felt like it did kind of capture that kind of fugue state you almost get when you've been driving all night in the dark.
Yeah. No, I feel like atmosphere is king in this movie. It really is. And the highway driving scenes help really build that atmosphere.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean, when he's not on the highway, it seems to just get even worse. We'll talk about that right after this.
So he sees this lady on the side of the road. I know, I smacked my lips.
Oh, and inhale into the microphone.
I keep trying not to, and I keep failing. So he sees this lady on the side of the road, and he pulls over. She complains that her car has like broken down. It won't turn over. He goes to give it a look. And when she goes to start it up, it starts again, but he disconnects something. Well, she can't see.
Yeah. She's like, well, hell, which is very like cars can be that way sometimes. But yeah, so yeah, what happens is the car starts and she's like, oh, sorry, I guess it's fine. So she gets ready to get out and he goes, I'll close the hood for you. And he pulls something or will cut something with a knife when he closes it. And that's that first wah of like, This guy is bad news. Bad news. Very
bad news. And then we figure he's even more bad news because he offers to give her a ride in town and lets her into his car. And then we see that he's like locked his car by like nailing nails into the little key thing. Or something was in the little keyhole of the car door.
No, that was there was no handle. It was
handle.
It was one of those pliers that you can like you can twist it till it stays on. So it was literally a pair of pliers to open the door, and the door just wouldn't open on the other side.
Right.
It just didn't. It just didn't connect there.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's just broke and can't afford to get his car fixed, but in reality, you can't leave the car unless he lets you out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Ted Bundy did that. He would disable the door, the interior lock on his door.
Yeah.
So that you can't get out unless he goes out and lets you out. And he was going to drive her to a gas station.
Yes.
And he drives past one. And here's the thing about this opening scene that I found so chilling. It was written. Now, remember, this scene is taking place probably in the late 70s, maybe mid 70s. He drives past the place and he just doesn't say anything to her. He's just not saying anything. She's like, that place would be fine. You could let me off here. I'll walk there or whatever. And he just doesn't say anything. So then she gets really upset. And then he just goes, okay, I'm sorry. It's so eerie how he doesn't try to make it like, oh, this is just a misunderstanding. He makes it more like he's still a weird creep, but he's just not that bad of a weird creep.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Because at one point, like, he basically tells her, like, he stops the car. He's like, all right, fine. I'm sorry. And then he literally says, like, I just thought maybe you and I could, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, his cover story to get her to be slightly less afraid of him is that he's still a creep. He's still a creep.
He's still a creep. He's a creep who may possibly not kill you by that confession, but a creep nonetheless. A slightly different version of creep.
What he's trying to get across to this woman is that because she notices the mess in his car that he lives on the road.
Yeah.
What he's trying to make her think is he's just one of those road dogs that's just always on the road. And he, the people, the colloquial ass cash or grass, nobody rides free saying.
Yeah.
That's from road dogs. Like that was the thing when you'd pick up hitchhikers was the idea. And you got to remember also that came from like the tail end of the free love era too.
Yeah.
So like the idea that this creepy looking dude was just thinking that this was, that he was going to score with some random chick because he reads too much Playboy or Playpen magazine or whatever. That's what I found really fascinating is that he all of a sudden goes like, all right, you don't have to get all upset. I thought this was going to go one way, but it didn't. And it's so weird though, because like she's still freaked out, but she's not, like you said, she's not like, this guy's going to murder me. She's like, this guy is creeping on me too hard.
Yeah.
I just think that's fascinating that he doesn't pull any kind of like, no, I'm a nice guy and we're all good. He pulls like I'm frustrated by it, but he even says like, but I'll take you to that gas station real quick. Like, I'm sorry I took you out of your way. And she's like, no, I'll walk. I just want out. And he's like, all right, suit yourself. But then when he goes around to the side because she can't get out, he grabs her and friggin' it's a gruesome, just out of nowhere killing. And I do want to mention, I started giggling earlier when you said like, this is when you realize maybe he's dangerous. I thought you were going to say because he's in a movie called Confessions of Serial.
Well, all that being aside,
that's a part
I would say that there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief we have to do as an audience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that's suspending disbelief. I think that's just like, maybe it is. I don't know. It's just like,
I don't know.
I'm just not thinking about it. But no, so he kills her and it's gruesome and he just dumps her body on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And keeps on trucking. And that's our introduction to him before we see him with the cops and everything.
Yeah. Hell of an introduction.
Yeah. I mean, what were you thinking? What were you thinking during the scene, after he picks her up and everything? Because obviously you're expecting this guy's a killer because you're watching a horror movie. But like, what was going through your mind? Like, as he, like, when she's talking to him and he's just like not reacting and all that, like, what was going through your mind as a female?
Well, I was thinking that's why we don't accept rides from strangers anymore. Like,
unless they're from Uber.
Yeah. Unless we're paying them.
Yeah. And then we make sure that not only do they come and get us, but they also like
know our
exactly
address,
where we live. Yeah.
So that was my first thought, is like, yeah, that's why, like, traveling across the country that way, like, people are way more wary now, I feel.
Well, but put yourself in her shoes, because it's easy to say, like, this is why we don't accept rides. Okay, so imagine for a moment you're driving she was going from Chicago to, I think it was Fort Worth, Texas, is what she said, because she had a new job. And imagine you're driving that trip, which has got to be 1,200 miles.
Yeah.
It's something like that, so maybe more. So imagine you're making that drive, your car breaks down, you don't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
You don't have any way to call for help. All you have is a jet black unlit interstate. That's all you have, or this creepy guy's car who's offering to help you out. Oh, and we forgot to mention, he doesn't even push that hard to give her a ride, because when she says, like, I think I'll stay with the car, he says, suit yourself. He's like, if you want, I can call somebody for you. And then she's like, actually, you know what? I think I will go to the gas station. So he even gave her the out, possibly. I mean, we don't know if he would have let her think, but he was like really keeping it like low key to make her think he was normal. Cause he says, like, I can just call somebody for you, make a phone call and tell the wrecker there's a car over there. So, but I mean, imagine that. Try to put yourself in that position though, where literally you have, how is this going to work out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
I totally agree.
Scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad that I live in a time with cell phones.
Well, and it's funny too, because, there are two directions you can look at this. You can look at it as like being a woman traveling alone, how scary it would be, because, what if you get picked up by a killer or something? If you're a man in the same situation, your thought is, okay, so basically no one will pick me up because they'll think, what if I'm a killer?
Right.
So, I guess I'm just walking until I, hopefully somebody who isn't a killer, but is bigger than me feels that they could pick me up and not be afraid of me. Like, that's the only way I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
It makes me think of that old joke, where you pick up a hitchhiker and then they say like, thanks for picking me up. I hope I'm not like, whatever, I'm not a serial killer or anything. And your response is, oh, I know you're not. I mean, statistically, what are the odds of two serial killers in one car?
Yeah.
It's pretty much impossible.
Yeah, I love that joke.
That's a classic. So that's the taste of what the highway killer is. Is he just picks people up. And that one, she wasn't even hitchhiking. He just saw her car broken down on the side of the road. And the cruel reality is, I mean, that's what a good Samaritan would do too, stopping and trying to help.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, he's such a predator to his core. He preys on women and he preys on children and he preys on, men who are lonely. And he preys on people's kindness. He's just a predator. And so this is, the start of the movie kind of shows us, and the rest of the movie just lays out like how his prey drive works.
Yeah, and how a person just lives like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get less chilling. It only gets more chilling. And we'll get to those chills right after this.
So after the opening of the movie, I tried.
How's that trying if you literally do it every time?
Over here, but I guess I was still like kind of close to the mic, so I'll try better next time.
Okay.
So after the opening credits of the movie, we see Daniel being interrogated by the police.
Right.
A lot of it is just kind of building up his history, building up, that they're investigating all these cases. We see his first murder. And I think it was really, really interesting that most of that scene, that flashback, was like from his point of view, the camera. And then it really didn't change until like after he killed the woman is when the camera angle changed. I thought that was really interesting creatively. And then
it's more interesting budgetarily because they couldn't find anybody who looked like him when he was younger, and they didn't want to confuse the audience.
Well, there's that too.
No, because I'm sure you've seen movies where they have somebody play the younger version of somebody, and they just don't really look that much alike.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like
it throws you.
It's like subconsciously it kind of splits your understanding of the character just a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, that's a good example of suspending your disbelief, though. You just kind of let it go because you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
And like, it's not going to be perfect. But I think that's one of the reasons they did it was they didn't want Henry to, or Daniel Ray Hawkins, they didn't want him to have any other face. They wanted him to only be, aside from when we see him when he's a real little kid, but that's only one scene.
Yeah.
So, and he doesn't even speak or anything. It's just him and his little sister being subjected to horrible abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, which is where I was going with that is, there's an unraveling or a revealing of his history because, he talks about that first murder and the sheriff asks him if he ever told anyone else about this. And he's like, no, not really. I was living with my mom and my sister at the time. And that's when he starts going into his history of, his dad was in the war and was now, paralyzed from the waist down. And, so his mom would basically, go out and turn tricks and bring guys home and would just make out with guys and then have sex with guys, like right in front of him and his sister. And the scene where she literally like comes in with these guys, her little kids start crying. She goes over and grabs the wheelchair of her paralyzed husband and just like wheels him into the bedroom like he's dirty laundry and starts going to town with these guys. And like the door just creaks open and the guy is looking out, peering out from behind the corner as Daniel and his little sister are holding on to each other, just crying. That was really, really, awful. And there's a lot of, not just in horror movies, but also in like real life cases where there's, serial killers and they did have like really awful childhoods.
Oh yeah.
So have you ever heard about, like the theory that economic distress, like there's the, what's the name of the theory where it's like basically every 20 years after an economic downturn, there's an uptick of serial killers because
I've heard things like that. Yeah, I've heard. I'm not sure how much credibility there is to it, but I've heard that kind of concept before.
Yeah. But then it kind of begs the question of, is Daniel really so broken from that experience? Or did he just kind of use that experience as an excuse for his actions?
I think that's pretty heinous because you got to remember that the end of that scene he's describing ends with his father blowing his own brains out with his gun from World War II because of what his wife is doing. And in real life, Henry Lee Lucas's father was a paraplegic from, I believe, from a war. And he did kill. Well, some people believe he killed himself. Some people don't. He wheeled out into the yard and got pneumonia and died from like drinking himself into a stupor and sleeping outside in the winter. And there were versions, and I'm not a Henry Lee Lucas historian, but I know that there was a time period where Henry, the actual guy, claimed that not only did his mother like have sex with men in front of him and his sister, but she would beat them if they looked away.
Ugh.
So I just want to mention that like, it's pretty messed up.
Pretty fucking heinous.
And I'm pretty sure, did he kill his mother? He tried to kill her, I believe, in real life. So
Okay.
I do think that, she was probably pretty heinous.
Yeah.
So, no, I think he did kill her. Sorry. I'm like trying to skim it because it's not really poignant to the story, but that's like kind of the information they were going on. I mean, they only had the information he gave in interviews and stuff like that. And you've got to remember that during this time period, this was kind of the renaissance of modern serial killers. It seemed like there was a new one every year.
Yeah.
From the 60s on. Just one after the other, after the other, after the other. And people were making big careers off of these killers by writing books about them and claiming to understand them and turning it into a whole industry.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was kind of when the sheriff is listening to him talk about his like horrific childhood. I feel like when he's just kind of like, yep, it sounds right. 'Cause that's how you make a monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting too, because it kind of felt like he was like, yeah, that sounds like what I read in Time magazine or something, or maybe I read a book about it. Who knows?
Yeah.
So it's very dark and they don't look away from it. They don't look away from it at all.
No.
And this film, I mean, they like I said, they go deep into his backstory too. Like Henry, which again, I love that movie, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. It doesn't have anything about him being captured or arrested. It doesn't have anything really about his childhood. It is just from A to B. He arrives in Chicago where his buddy Otis lives and hell comes with him. So this one, I mean, I felt like it was almost, cause like, yeah, they show it so honestly and he describes it so honestly.
Yeah.
That it's almost like they're challenging you to not have sympathy for him because they give you that. And then where do we go next? What does he talk about next?
Yeah. No, it's true because and again, we already mentioned like the last scene, but there's so much that Daniel does that is so reprehensible that even that, like, there's so little that humanizes him.
Yeah.
And even his tragic backstory, you can't, like, you're like, okay, I feel bad for you, but like that still doesn't excuse killing. Like,
yeah, well, he never seems to. Yeah, he never seems to feel like, maybe we should let the scamp go. But there are those little moments where he's almost just talking to him like a guy, and then it's like, oh right, you're a monster. I mean, you're beyond it.
That's because we've been talking about it a lot, but to kind of like jump ahead. So after they explain his backstory and he kind of explains the first time that he killed, he starts talking about like all the people that he's been picked up as hitchhikers. And then the sheriff really starts like working with him, building a rapport with him. And so they start like going out, driving around, trying to like locate bodies, locate old graves and stuff.
Yeah, because he's trying to remember details. He's like, I can't remember that many. And then he even mentions at one point, they say like, your memory seems to get, he does challenge him a few times that he's like, some of this sounds like bull crap.
Yeah.
And I remember one point he says like, your memory seems to get fuzzy now. Like before it seemed really tight. And he doesn't even react defensively. He goes, yeah, Moon was really into all them pills and drinking.
Yeah, we were pretty messed up most of the time.
Yeah, he says it's like whenever I was with Moon, I was doing a lot of drinking and drugging, like without a doubt. And you're like, geez, he's not even defensive. He's not even like, hey, I remember. No, he's like, yeah, I've done a lot of weird, messed up stuff. But
it's like, okay.
But he even tells him, he's like, I'm sure I could show it to you if you I could probably find it if I drove around.
Well, and because the way it plays out is at first they have him draw a map
Yeah.
And when they go where he describes they can't find anything, and then he ends up telling him, like, no, you went to the wrong place.
Well, they take him out there, and he's like, oh, no, it's not this road. It's further
the other
down.
road down.
Yeah.
So it turns out that, like, yeah, he is able to take them to, like, several grave sites.
Yeah.
But it gets even more chilling because there's this rapport being built between him and the sheriff, especially. And there's, as he's helping them, there's brief moments where he could almost vaguely be humanized. And then he takes him to the burger joint.
Yeah, this scene is so great.
It tells so much with so little.
And we'll get to that right after this.
So the sheriff, I did it.
You didn't take a big breath into the microphone.
So the sheriff has built a rapport with Daniel. And after a particularly successful drive, decides to treat him to a fresh burger from a burger joint.
And a chocolate shake. Because it becomes clear that that's what he loves, is a burger and a chocolate shake.
Burger and a chocolate shake. Nothing better. Which is a pretty good combo, I've got to say.
I don't get I like milkshakes fine. I'm not a huge milkshake person, but I don't get the burger and milkshake thing. My mom is a burger and milkshake person, because multiple times she'll say, like when I was a kid or when I was a teenager or whatever, she would like slip me $10, but you should get a hamburger and a milkshake. And I'd be like, I don't do that. And eat it and sip the shake. I don't think it's gross or anything. It's just, that's not for me. That's not like something I look forward to. I look forward to like a big juicy burger and a pile of crispy fries and a cold Coke. That's just my deal. But mom, she's all about like, you take a bite of the burger and then you take a sip of the milkshake. And I get that tastes good, but it's just not my thing.
I want to consume the whole cow all at once. Give me some glue too.
Yeah,
get all this in there.
That's horse.
Or
do you mean Elmer's because there's a cow on it?
I guess it is mostly horse. But it's any animal bones.
We're still talking about something that they haven't done in like 30 years, except for like maybe like the Amish or something. So
your goes to get a burger and a shake.
And they're at a sock hop. They're at a drive-through or drive-in is what they used to call drive-in
so there's
burger place.
The servers are all like rolling around on their roller skates. And it plays out beautifully because the server rolls up and she comes up to the side that Daniel is at, and she's handed everyone their food. And Daniel just kind of makes some kind of snide remark to her. And she she just says, she says something like, hey, honey, or something like that. Yeah, it's like, hey, honey. And then he says,
well, first he goes to because he's finishing his shake.
Yeah.
He hands her the shake, which makes her see he's in handcuffs. I just want to mention that because that's the first moment where her eyes get really wide. And then what you were talking about. And then
he says, if I wasn't in these, it
would say, if it weren't for all these policemen in here with me.
If it weren't for all these policemen in here with me, you'd be mine.
You'd be all mine. With a big smile on his face.
And it's great because she has a moment, obviously, that's creepy. Mm-hmm. And with the handcuffs, there's some context there, but she doesn't know. But then we see the sheriff's face.
It's like he saw a ghost.
Yeah, he suddenly realizes that this is not a person. That this is a monster.
This is actually the guy who's told us these stories. Like, he is actually the man from his own stories, basically.
Yeah. But it's even better because it starts to explain so many things all at once. Because then Daniel mentions, that store across from me, or the store across there, it used to be a different store. It used to be open. It was like a 7-Eleven or something.
Yeah.
And the police officers confirm, yes, we know it used to be because there was a call there years ago.
Yeah, and he remembers him and Moon basically impromptu robbing the place, which reveals that Moon, who is a heavy-set kind of shit kicker kind of looking guy, he's a mad dog killer.
Yeah.
Because they're like shopping for groceries and Daniel's just like, I don't have my wallet. Moon, you got any money? He says, nah, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And he just pulls out a gun and shoots the cashier. Yeah. And Henry's eyes just get all wide when he does it. And he grabs the gun from him and looks around because he's like, they don't even know if they're the only ones in the store.
Yeah.
And then they aren't. There's a woman in the back room, which is a little video rental spot, which that alone tells you, they're in a small town in the 80s or whatever, because there's a video store in a gas station, which there were video stores and everything.
Oh, do you remember video stores in
tanning salons?
Oh, I was going to say grocery stores.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember the Kroger specifically. Yeah. The Kroger right here had a big video store. My cousin Jeff actually just obtained, he's the guy who wrote the Tapes of the Living Dead official guide to Night of the Living Dead's home video history. Or Night of the Living Tapes. Oh, he'll kill me. Night of the Living Tapes, not Tapes of the Living Dead. But he just bought a rental copy of Night of the Living Dead, and it's from a rental store, or a video rental inside a liquor store in, I forget what state, but like it literally is a liquor store. Yeah, he was like, I had to have it because it was a former rental from a liquor store. So, but yeah, tanning salons were big to have video stores, video rental.
Really?
Oh yeah. Because people would be there for a while and they had space. They just had lots of extra space because it's just the booths and that's it. So they'd have a whole corner and they'd just be like, oh, you can rent tapes in there too. So you could like look at something while you're waiting for a booth to come up. And and I guess that's really smart though, because people are generally coming back at least every few days.
Yeah. So you can return the tape, rent a new tape.
So he shoots the woman in there and shoots the clerk a couple times to make sure he's dead, and they steal the stuff. And he's like, Moon, we got to get out of here. And he seems, but it's funny because he doesn't seem angry in the way that you should be. He's angry in like that, this is really messy. We could get caught. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Now we got to like get out of here quick.
Yeah. Like I didn't want to leave town quite yet. Now we've got to leave town.
I don't even think he was that annoyed. I think he was just like, man, I was still looking for stuff. I thought I wanted a pair of gloves. Now we got to go. But yeah, it's a wild moment.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things is as he starts to talk about Moon and how they met working for a moving company, and how Moon was very clearly, in his words, queer.
Yeah.
I noticed he was queer, is I think what he said, because of the things he was saying to me and stuff. And he wanted him to like him. They started to like hit it off, and turns out that they're both psychos. And it's fascinating that that was a real thing. Otis Toole is who Moon Luton's based on, is a real guy who got arrested and put in prison for murder. So they literally, two serial killers, they like crossed paths and became buddies. That really happened. In fact, there are some people who believe, and this will hit you hard as a 90s kid, that Otis Toole, who Moon's based on, killed, oh my gosh, what's his, America's Most Wanted, something Walsh. Oh man, his name's escaping me. He was, remember the guy who hosted America's Most Wanted, John Walsh?
Yeah.
It's believed that some people believe Otis Toole killed his son, because that's why he became obsessed with, America's most wanted criminals, is because his son was murdered.
No shit.
His little child son was murdered. And Otis Toole was in that part of Florida when it happened. Some people think he did it.
Damn.
I don't know if it's like a real, or if it's just kind of a conspiracy or whatever, but like, yeah. And Otis Toole, I think we did an episode of Terrifying and True on him, like in the first year we were doing that show. But he received 2 death sentences, which were commuted to life imprisonment. Like he was a bad dude, from an alcoholic, abusive father who used to dress him in women's clothing.
Mm.
Yeah. And there were also a lot of debates. He supposedly got his 2 death penalties commuted to, life imprisonment because his IQ was 75.
Okay.
And, there was a lot of debate. There still is some, but there was a lot of debate in the 90s about if you should execute people who are mentally handicapped.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not chiming in on that because I got nothing. I got nothing. So that's a heavy concept. But yeah, there were even like photos of Lucas and Toole together before they were caught. Like,
wow.
Yeah, they were literally two serial killers who met and became buddies. They met at a soup kitchen in Jacksonville, Florida in real life. And Toole claimed that he accompanied Lucas on 108 murders and sometimes committed them at the behest of a satanic cult. Yeah.
Because why not? Why not get Satan involved in it?
I mean, he might have like legitimately not understood at all because he was so crazy and so intellectually stunted.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, Toole confessed to the murder of Adam Walsh. It's just there wasn't enough evidence to convict him of it.
Okay.
Like to fully be convinced. Anyway, but I just want to mention that because if you're a 90s kid, you remember John Walsh from America's Most Wanted, and his son was murdered, and it was probably Otis Toole, or at least that's what people are saying. So anyway, but they meet and hit it off, I guess.
Like a house on fire.
So that's one way to put it. And when we get back, we'll go into maybe the hardest to watch scene in a film full of really hard to watch scenes right after this. So our bosom buddies of Daniel I always have this problem with it because I think of him as still Henry in the movie because he's so clearly Henry Lee Lucas. Daniel Ray Hawkins and Moon Luton. That name, that had to have been a reference to Val Lewton, the famous B-movie maker director was Val Lewton. A lot of movies name people Luton, and I'm guessing that must have been why. But Moon, what a name!
What a name!
So he then tells a story. I mean, because they're all him telling stories for the most part about them working for the movers and noticing a very attractive woman living next door to the house they're moving, and they decide they're going to pay her a visit after they're done. And this is where we kind of really see that this is a match made in hell. I mean, that these two
that's
people
a way to
found
put
each
it.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause they're both just demented psychos. Really.
Yeah.
Who somehow don't feel threatened from each other, probably because they were having sex with each other. And it is mentioned, I'm pretty sure that it's mentioned that he can't have sex. Daniel in this, he mentions like he can't really have sex with a live woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he can't.
Yeah.
So, but he can have sex with Moon or with, or he can rape people.
Yeah.
And he even says that.
Yeah. He says like there's got to be an element of humiliation in it.
Thank you. Yeah. Cause I'm pretty sure that includes with Moon.
Yeah.
So that alone, tells you a lot. But this scene bothers me for so many reasons. And the number one is that they come to her door. It's probably 10 at night, something like that.
Yeah.
And they tell her that from her neighbor who they were helping do some moving earlier, they heard that her air conditioner was busted. And he's like, Moon, be happy to take a look at it. Only charge you $10. And that's only if you can get her running. And she's like, well, it is kind of late. He's like, oh, I know. He's so good at being a believable, kind person. Mm-hmm. Not a saint, just a believable, kind person. He's like, we just want to make a little bit of extra money and we'll only charge you if we can get it fixed. And then when she said, well, it is kind of late, he's like, we understand that. We just figured we'd pop by because it's been so hot. I can't imagine you wouldn't want your air conditioner to work. And you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah. That
you'd be like, we should pop over there because it's so damn hot. It's Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd be like, no. And then he says, how about $5? And she's like, all right. So he comes in and did you notice how quickly his demeanor changes? Like just like that. The moment they're in, he's completely different.
Ice cold.
Yeah, he just sits down on her couch and starts flipping through her magazine on the coffee table.
Yeah.
Doesn't even really make small talk with her. Moon goes to the back to look at the air conditioner. I'm making air quotes. What were you thinking when he's sitting there and she's kind of talking to him for a minute and he's just no longer responding? Now, of course, as the audience, we've seen him do some pretty heinous things already. And I do think that this way of introducing him and Moon as literal compatriots in heinous, unspeakable crimes, not just, horrible things like killing people to rob a liquor store or whatever, but like going into someone's home with the intention to rape and murder them, like completely planned.
Mm-hmm.
No heat of the moment, nothing. They're like, this is what we're going to do because this is what we do. This is what we like to do.
Yeah.
It's chilling.
Just the sense of dread. And so one of the things I really loved about this movie was the soundtrack, because it's these, for the most part, it's like these really odd, discordant synths.
Mm-hmm.
But this scene was different because when the scene started, the lady was in her home. She's like in her pajamas, drinking a beer, and she puts on
she's in her Texas pajamas, which is like a big t-shirt and a pair of short shorts.
Yeah.
But you're totally right. She's like,
I'm not complaining.
She's chilling out. She's got a record playing. She's got a beer.
And so the scene starts with this kind of stereotypical, like pop rocky kind of sound. And, she sits there, she talks to Daniel and lets him and Moon in, and Daniel's composure changes, and she's still sitting there, sipping on her beer, trying to make conversation and be friendly. And the pop rock music slowly stops, and then as he's just sitting there thumbing through this magazine, refusing to acknowledge her even, and the synth starts back up. And I thought that was so powerful because it started right when you as an audience member could see the gears turning in her head.
Yeah.
And when the alarm bells finally went off for her.
It's almost like he's in a waiting room to see a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just waiting for the action to start.
Yeah. So yeah, the sense of dread just keeps building and building and building. And I just wanted, to scream, just run, just run, just get out, go somewhere, anywhere. Like, this is not safe. And she starts to realize, but she's trying to be, she's trying to be polite. So she's like, well, I'm going to go check. It's been a little while. I'm going to go check on him. So she goes through the hall. She opens up the door, and Moon's just sitting there at her vanity, putting on her makeup.
Yeah, and I think he's like gone through her underwear and stuff.
Yeah, and he's gone through all her drawers and everything. And that's where it's not just alarm bells for her now. Yeah. It is the full on, man the battle stations.
Yeah, well, and she turns to run away, and of course
it's too late.
Daniel's already standing there. He grabs her, they pull her in there, they pull her pants down, and it's the more I think about the scene, because it's hard to watch.
Oh, yeah.
But I never really thought about why it's so unpleasant. I mean, there's obvious reasons, but what I mean is, why is it so disturbing, like all the way to your core? Because there are lots of horrific depictions of sexual assault in movies. It's because they're a team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that two would just go do this because it's fun is really mortifying.
Yeah.
And the scene is, I mean, like it's rare that I barely want to describe a scene because it's so heinous. But I mean, basically he starts raping this woman, and then Moon slits her throat.
Yeah.
While he's raping her, and then asks him how he likes that. Because she's like in the throes of dying while he's doing this. But it's a brilliant storytelling tactic, because it tells you everything you need to know about Moon.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you needed to know, because once you hear him say that, you realize how he sees everything, what everything means to him.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a thrill. And
yeah,
it's a nasty one. And we're going to take a quick break on that note. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Moon and the way the sheriff is starting to get a little skeptical in some ways right after this. One of my favorite little moments that matters a lot is when the sheriff is listening to Daniel confessing, is he points out that a lot of the crimes he's been confessing to were crimes in the newspaper, like that woman that they broke into the house of and killed.
Mm-hmm.
So he asks him if he could tell them something that wasn't in the newspaper, they'd be more likely to believe him. And he says, there was something that was done in the house that we never published. And Daniel, without even a thought, he just goes, "Are you talking about Moon used to take a shit on the floor when we were done?" He was like, "I don't know why. It was just a thing he did." And the guy is like, "Yep.
Yeah,
that's right." And there are several moments in this that are shocking, where he tells this insane story and then they see some credible evidence that it did happen.
Yeah.
Like finding the body or what have you. But one of my favorite, because it was a really great show don't tell, was when they go to the bus station, when he takes them to the bus station.
Yeah. No, I love that because it plays out where Daniel, tells him like, "Ed, if you want even more evidence, go to this bus station." So a bunch of the police officers just pile into the bus station.
He gives them keys.
Yeah, gives them keys and goes to, and we were discussing, it's not a safe deposit box, but it's one of the lockers. And they get
back then I think it was for a quarter.
Yeah.
You just had the box
for a month.
No, for as long as because you just put the coin in and got the key. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure eventually they might crack it open if nobody ever comes and checks it, but you can have it for as long as you want.
So they get 3 big shoe boxes full of Polaroids.
Yes.
And it's Polaroids he and Moon had taken at their crime scene. So this is some, again, very heinous shit. And Daniel starts explaining that Moon's younger sister is the one who told them to start using bus stops this way and started instructing them, like, you want to stick to bus stops as often as you can because there's victims around all the time and you can rent the lockers and it's really easy to just get in and get out and it's so close to the highway. And she was so crucial to this idea of them sticking to the bus stops that they started letting her travel along with them.
Well, my understanding in the movie is that she came to stay with Moon because she was in a pretty messed up situation, and they allude to her being a prostitute.
Yeah.
And the big thing that she reveals to them is how to find, this is truly heinous, how to find working girls who are going to have money because they turn tricks and kill them to take their money.
Yeah.
So she basically just figures out a better, way to make money while murdering.
Mm-hmm.
And she's supposed to be about 16 years old. Or 15, 16 years old. She's very, very rough looking. And it's clear she's had a horrible, life.
Yeah.
Just brutal.
Yeah.
But Daniel is not happy at first with this young woman joining them. Apparently Moon had told him she was just going to be there for a few days or something. But as it becomes clear, she's just as disturbed as they are. And I haven't actually heard that much information on what she was actually like, the person she was based on, whose name was Becky. But yeah, the depiction in the movie is that she is truly demented. And then we find out that Daniel ends up marrying her, not legally, but they had a ceremony.
Yeah, just like him and her and Moon.
Yeah. And so now he's married to this 15-year-old girl, which in real life, Becky was 11 when they met. I double checked that while we were on a break. So now he has a partner of like a wife of sorts, and they're just doing their drifting thing. And apparently, and this was true in the real case, Moon would kind of drift in and out of his life and of his sister's life once they had gotten married, because that was true. They like were married.
Mm-hmm.
So we see them wake up at a campsite and realize everybody's already drove away, so they don't have a ride. So they got to go hitching, which is ironic. You know, they got to go hitchhiking themselves. And they end up encountering this man, and they're getting ready to rob him. But they see a cop. And Becky was going to blow the guy's brains out.
Yeah.
But
Daniel stops her.
Yeah, he stops her. I'm sorry I keep bouncing on the names. It's really confusing. I still find it so fascinating that this is the movie where they didn't use their real names. So they end up finding out that this guy is a doctor and a preacher, like a very religious man. And he ends up offering them a job working at a fix-it shop. So, and this is where the movie does slow down a bit, but I actually think it works really well for it because it builds dread.
Yes.
And this is basically what we're like, how we wrap up the whole saga, because he mentions, you know, that Becky and obviously Becky or Molly, thank you. Molly is obviously not around anymore. Gee, I wonder what happened. So we end up like, we don't go back to the interrogation room for quite a while now.
Yeah.
You know, we see this unfold, and they move into this apartment on the doctor's property, and they convince him to let Moon come and work there too. And they're just like fixing washers and dryers and occasionally doing, you know, messed up stuff a little ways away from town. So they, you know, can get away with it. Yeah. And meanwhile, Daniel is obsessed with the young teenage daughter of their boss. He's always eyeing her and watching her. And I'm sure that's going to be fine. You know, I'm sure that's going to be totally fine. And we'll find out just how fine right after this. So they're working this job, and one little thing that I found very amusing is Moon constantly complaining because he just hates straight work. He's like, he's like always so annoyed. Much. He's like, I'm tired of this working crap. It's like, wow. I mean, they're literally gainfully employed, and he hates every second of it.
And it's not like, it is, I want to get it straight. Like at one point they've got to go, you know, pick up somebody's washing machine and take it back to the shop to fix it. So like, it is difficult work, but it's not like they're working all day. And they even joke around that they were able to get an extra day off because they played along with their boss, that they're religious. So like he gives them Sunday, like all day Sunday off, as well as Saturday. Like, so like, it's not that bad. And they get a free apartment. Like this is a pretty sweet gig, but they almost resent it.
I would say they do resent it. Well, more so Moon.
Yeah, Moon resent. Yeah, Daniel, I feel like could have just kind of like held tight for a while.
He would have rolled with it for a good while.
Yeah, especially because they, you know, on Sundays, they take the car out and drive, you know, 50 miles, 60 miles, drive a clip down the road, find a couple kids and just shoot them dead and then just drive back.
Yeah, that was like their Band-Aid for, you know, needing a thrill. Ugh. So there's a lot of that in this movie. Ugh. But so one thing I found amusing though was as well was just that they're like living this kind of traditional life, and it seems like Daniel is the most okay with it. Like Molly seems even annoyed at times, especially because there's this the woman who manages both the doctor's office and the fix-it shop, whose name was like Doris.
I think it was like Doris or something. Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
I think it was Doris.
I didn't write it down. So.
Typical. No, but she's like not even, particularly mean, but she's like keeping them on task and they just hate her. And
they hate her so much.
And she's very curious, like, what is with these people?
Yeah. She doesn't, it's not that she totally distrusts them, but she also doesn't give them just a free pass like the doctor does.
Mm-hmm.
And the teenage daughter doesn't even seem to realize how creepy they're being until a little bit later on.
Yeah, well, because there's a part where they show up back at the apartment with a new car. And like, we got a new car. And she's like, where'd you get it from? And they open the trunk and go, her. And there's this like live
Mm-hmm.
woman in the trunk. And they pull her up. Moon takes her up into the apartment. And Daniel just pulls a chainsaw out of the back seat and walks up with that too. And what I like about this third act so much is it's a very tense part of the movie. And the movie doesn't have like a lot of long stretches of suspense.
Yeah.
So this part, we really get quite a bit of suspense because we know that these guys are going to go ape shit on this nice family. We know they are because they're monsters.
Yeah, that's what they do.
And there's this whole part where the daughter is listening to her headphones and she hears a weird sound. So she starts walking towards the apartment, hearing a chainsaw going and going and going and going. And as she walks up the stairs, she's, very curious, but somehow doesn't end up fully getting, caught spying. And she doesn't know what they're doing either. So
no.
She doesn't suspect it's murder or anything, just weird. I thought that was such an effectively suspenseful sequence.
Oh, I agree.
It really messed with me rewatching it. But yeah, we just know things are not going to be so good.
No.
And I think I may have skipped over one part. I think Moon was already gone when they did that. I think he went and got the car because Moon had taken their car.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, because Moon had ditched out not long after all that. So now it's just Molly and Daniel. And it like you just know that it's all going to go sideways. And when it does, it really does. And it happens pretty quick after a few more cat and mouse moments because Doris ends up sneaking into their apartment. And this is an example of why I think the directing of this film is very, it's very effectively done, even though it's very matter of fact. And that's when she's in their apartment looking around and there are just a few small things like a bloody knife or whatever that she's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But then when they're coming in, she hides in the bathroom and behind her while she's sitting there is just a murdered woman in the tub.
Yeah.
That she doesn't even see. And I always thought that was like a really awesome reveal that was super freaky, that she's just standing there and to the side of her is just a dead woman. But they catch her in there. They kill her. And now all of a sudden she's not coming around. So the police are now sniffing around.
Yeah.
And that's when Molly is like, I want to get out of here. And Daniel's like, soon. But he's also, obsessed with that woman. Oh, and the police also come snooping around because Moon's been arrested.
Mm-hmm. And they want to ask some questions.
And they want to ask his sister some questions. So we've got cops around. We've got things getting more and more tense. We've got a lot of things coming to a head. And when it finally does all go haywire, sometimes in some viewings, I didn't like the way it ended. I mean, that segment. And in some ways I did.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I do like it because there's a cop there and he's talking to Molly and all of a sudden Daniel is just gone for the daughter. He's just trying to get her. So the cop sees him running up after the girl. So the cop pulls the gun and says, step away, freeze. And in that moment, Molly stabs him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she stabs him. He falls to the ground. But as he's wrestling with the daughter, Molly accidentally cuts Daniel's arm. And I thought this was such a brilliant way to do this moment. She cuts his arm and he literally goes like, and she goes, Daniel, I'm sorry. And he just looks at her like a toddler.
Yeah.
This, like angrily and just shoots her like 3 times. Dead.
Yeah.
That's how he kills her. He just gets upset in the moment and just shoots her dead.
Yeah.
And then goes after the daughter again. And it's a great cat and mouse scene, he's coming after, she's trying to get to her car. The keys are on the other side of the bottom of the car. She's trying to reach it and stuff.
Yeah, I loved that shot as she was like on her hands and knees searching and the keys were just like right out of reach.
Yeah, no, it's a great one. So there's a lot of really great tense moments that really grab you. And of course, in the end, he's driving off in her car. He gets pulled over by the police. And it starts to become clear this must be when he was captured as to where he's doing all this confessing now.
Yeah.
So he gets pulled over. He has a gun that he's like thinking about pulling, but the cops are too smart for him. There was another cop on the other side seeing him reaching for the gun. So he's like, hey, put your hands up right now. Puts his hands up. They look in the trunk and they find the murdered girl who the owner of the car, the daughter of the doctor, who he somehow managed to get out unscathed. Like, I mean,
yeah, I think he had to like go run.
He was going to be gone for 2 days at a hospital.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So now he's been arrested and he is in the interrogation room, and this is the culmination of the movie that makes it work so incredibly well for me, and what really makes this movie stand out in so many like serial killer, horror, true crimey movies. And we'll talk about that right after our last break. So the moment that has chilled me to the bone every single viewing of this film, including that first time in my bedroom alone on a Saturday night watching it on a VHS tape, is as we fade back to him in the interrogation room after he's told this whole story about what happened with the doctor and his daughter and Molly and all this. He's sitting there. And he says, I felt real bad about what happened to Molly. I never wanted to hurt her. I really do regret it. Can I get another chocolate milkshake? And then that's it. That's the movie.
Yeah.
And then it fades to the credits. And it's that moment. I have goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so chilling because it just doesn't, like I said at the beginning, it really is like he understands that he should have remorse. He probably even would like to.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't have it. It just isn't there.
Yeah, because what he says is he didn't mean to kill Molly. He feels bad for Moon about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I think is such an interesting way of saying it, because it's not like he actually does feel remorse. It's just like he realizes that it was Moon's sister, so Moon's got to be upset about it, which I think is just that's the epitome of being a sociopath, isn't it? Is not actually having the remorse, even if you'd like to. It's just being like,
Well, it also feeds into the whole bizarreness of all the confessions, because he confesses to like what he would describe as his worst crime, and in real life he described as his worst crime until he recanted the confession of killing his wife of sorts. He confesses to that, says his piece, and then he wants more of the reward.
Mm-hmm.
So it really plays well. And I really don't think that when they were writing and filming that movie, they had a full grasp of that element. I mean, they knew that he was given lots of milkshakes, and there are other crazy things that the actual Henry Lee Lucas thing, like he was taken to restaurants and cafes. He was allowed to walk around police stations without handcuffs on. Like there were all kinds of crazy things because he was solving cases like crazy.
Yeah.
By confessing to them. So, but no, that final moment, I hammer on this all the time, that the final moment, the thing that is revealed or stated before the credits roll is what the movie is actually about.
Yeah.
Because it tells you that by it ending there, that was the story it was telling. And the story was just that he's a cold-blooded creature with the mentality of like a 7-year-old at best.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she cuts his arm and he really does look like a scorned toddler. He just looks at her with his face all scrunched up and then shoots her 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
No thought about the consequence of that action, to him, to his friend, to, the law. None of it. None of it matters. He's only in that moment like, ow, you hurt my arm. I'm going to kill you. And then to just like say how bad he felt about it and just wants another chocolate milkshake.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I showed that to my buddy Dave for the first time, that freaked him out no, he still talks about how that line about the milkshake makes him sick.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's supposed to. And that's why I liked following up Pearl with this film, is because they both have such strong endings for very different reasons. With Pearl, like it's this great big monologue of her explaining her brokenness.
Yeah.
And with Confessions, it's kind of like, tell me you're a sociopath without saying I'm a sociopath. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful for being 3 sentences.
Oh yeah. And his delivery, because it's so matter of fact, simple.
Yeah.
He puts no emphasis on anything when he says it either. It's entirely what was said, not how it was said.
Yeah.
Because it was just plainly stated. So we obviously deeply know how I feel about this film at this point, but you, with your moderate education in horror films, I mean, at this point, you've seen quite a few horror films, and you've seen several that have blown you away. You've seen several that were pretty good. You've seen ones that were bad. You've seen it all in that way. What's your final thought on Confessions of a Serial Killer?
I think it's amazing.
You're not just saying that because I'll shoot you 3 times.
I mean, that too. No, but I mean, I definitely don't think it's for everyone.
No.
But I think that people who like, I mean, obviously, people who like our show are going to like this movie.
Some of them, at least. I mean, some of them, I wouldn't blame them if they only want to listen to us talk about it and they don't want to watch it, because it's really heinous.
It's rough. It is very rough. But the reason that it's so engaging is because it is so rough. It does force you to confront those crimes. Kind of in a similar way to how Funny Games did, where it doesn't lean heavily on the gore. It leans into what makes humans monstrous. And I think that's very powerful.
I would agree with that. And what do you think about, I don't know, like it's tough to like pick anything beyond, like, I think the performance is so creepy. I think that the material is really solid. I think the way it was filmed was done pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie, it came and went. I'm guessing that Corman bought it for slightly more than they made it for, so they got a little boost, and then the movie just kind of existed, aside from when they got tapped to do a commentary for the British DVD, because it never came out on DVD, which was wild, by the way, because there was a period of time where all those Corman movies were getting dropped on DVD really fast. And I was always shocked it wasn't one of the like 180 that got put out.
Yeah.
And that's how I got like Slumber Party Massacre and stuff. I mean, they would just put them out, no extras, anything, and just pop, because there was money to be made in DVD. But Confessions never came out like that.
Huh.
So, but luckily there's a Blu-ray, and it's also streaming several places like Amazon Prime. I thought it was on Tubi, but you don't take my word for it. It's like reading Rainbow. But yeah, I really can't recommend enough. If you have a stomach for true crime and brutal character studies, violent, vicious character studies, or, although this would be the same thing, I mean, you would like that kind of thing, or you're a longtime lover of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, because this was literally made at the same time with the same basic concepts, and it's super different. It really is. They couldn't be more different, honestly. Which is funny because, I mean, was it Deep Impact and Armageddon were made at the same time?
Yeah.
Paul Blart Mall Cop and Observe and Report were made at the same time. I mean, sometimes it just happens. two of the same concept happen at the same time without any influence on each other. And this is a really interesting example of that.
Yeah.
And this movie just really doesn't get enough love. Henry is considered a classic, and this one has been kind of lost to time. So I really do recommend, if you are down for something different, Confessions of a Serial Killer is the way to go. It's rare that a movie freaks me out just as much now as it did when I was like a kid, a teenager. And this one does. There's something so human. And I don't know if that was the writing, because the screenplay, I believe, was also written by Mark Blair. And I don't believe he went on to make any more feature films. I'm pretty sure he stuck to industrials, commercials, and things like that. I'm almost certain. I think he did like a little bit of work in Hollywood, briefly, but, I think his real name is John Dwyer, and I got him backwards. I think Mark Blair was the fake name he used in the movie, but even so, like, he had, maybe done some script writing and stuff. So I don't know. My point is, like, it was a first film as a director and a writer, feature film. And he really made something special.
He definitely.
I just wonder what the magic ingredient was, was it maybe kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Was it the people and the execution and just Texas summer that just helped make this movie really stick? I don't know. But I think about that a lot. Like, why is this different from anything else I watched? Like, what is it? Because, like, the script is not genius, but it is smart, and it is thought out. But in some ways, I think it's an accident. It's accidental. I don't think he put as much thought into it as arrived, which happens all the time with writing. I'm not trying to dig at this guy and say he's not a good writer, but I mean, it's not like he wrote 1,000 screenplays after this. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the X factor is, so to speak.
I definitely think that the performances have a lot to do with it. Just how straight Daniel was, and how simple but savage Moon was, and similar for Molly. Like, she's ruthless.
Yeah.
Throughout, like, and it comes across so natural to them. It doesn't feel like any of the actors are being melodramatic. It feels like they're really embodying that kind of beastly side of humanity.
Yeah, I would agree. They're pretty naturalistic and pretty bizarrely subtle at times.
Yeah. For
a movie that should be like, beating you over the head with a frying pan. It really isn't like that.
Yeah.
So, well, I think we've dived as deep as anyone should ever want to into Confessions of a Serial Killer. So I hope you guys do check it out if it's the kind of thing you like, if you like that kind of thing. So we made a decision that the next episode of Cutting Deep, we're actually going to do Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, because Rachel, you've never seen it.
No.
And I think you'll be really fascinated by it. And I think it would be a great compare and contrast.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, that one is on Tubi. And if you've never seen it, it is a rough but fascinating watch. It's really well made. It was the launching point of two genre careers that would go on for a very long time. I really think it is a solid film. It's just, I think it is not as chilling and it's not even vaguely about Henry Lee Lucas, even though he is Henry and Otis and Becky. They're all the actual names. That's the part that always made me laugh. Didn't change the names. We used them. So, but we're going to be talking about that when we get back next time. So, be sure to, keep an eye out on Friday. You never know when Cutting Deep might just drop.
Ooh.
So on that note, we do very much appreciate you guys joining us. And if you want to send us an email about our movie choices or anything else, or recommend a film, you can do so at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Of course, if you want to support us in a very direct way, you can head to weeklyspooky.com/join. And for as little as $1 a month, get 2 bonus shows every month and over 5 years of creepypasta readings and exclusive audiobooks. We really do appreciate the support, and if you've been debating it for a while, now is a really good time to sign up. So we're going to get out of here, and Rachel's got to hitch a ride somewhere, so we'll see you guys next time. Want to ride?